For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on your favorite podcast app, which could be any number of them, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I'm not tuned into the podcast thing. I'm really not. It's strange. I merely host one, everybody. I don't know the technical ins and outs. But how's it going today? We are live on this September 18th, heading into the weekend, and I'm hosting this again like a radio show because that's the one thing that I really enjoy about radio is that we can be live and you can interact with me, and it's always fun to hear your opinions, whether you agree with me, disagree with me. See, this is the thing, is that I like to put ideas out there. I don't like to beat my opinion into you and say, that's the way it is because I said so. I like to give a perspective and then hear your feedback and see if you agree or don't agree. And so we've got 30 minutes to do that this week, and I've got my trusty Post-it note. I've mentioned this before, that's how I make notes for myself for the radio show or for the podcast, is I have an idea. I've got Post-its everywhere. I have an idea, stick it on a Post-it, and then put it right on the desk in front of me so that when I come and do the show here, I've got my talking points. So let's talk about rainy day productivity. My mom's thoughts on America's Got Talent and reality shows, the Emmys, which are handed out this weekend, the celebrity Instagram boycott, and the season changing. There we go. I mean, now these things don't sound, groundbreaking or page turning, but because I'm so animated and such a good storyteller, you're going to be entertained. That much I promise you, all right? So sit back and enjoy. It starts right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. All right, let's talk TV, since this is... You know what? Years ago, I could say that this is the biggest night in television coming up on Sunday, the Emmys. But lately, and I've had this opinion several times on the show before, generally it comes out around award show season is when I go on this rant, but people don't give two shits about award shows anymore, right? The ACMs, the such and such country something musics, had the lowest all-time ratings ever, and that was on, what day was that? Tuesday or Wednesday, I believe, on, I think, CBS. And, given what's going on in the world, let's be honest here, right? You've got hurricanes on one side, you've got fires that are basically smoking out my country of Canada, So, and then you've got, again, the civil unrest, you've got politics, you got so much. The last thing that people want to see right now is millionaires patting themselves on the back. Now, you could argue, all right, I'm going to give you both sides of the coin here. You could argue and say that it's a good distraction, right? It takes our mind off of what's going on in the world. But here's the deal. That would be so disingenuous because what's going on in the world could be your house burning down or being washed away. So, no, I don't agree with that. I believe that there are far more important things to pay attention to and worry about. So I'm making a prediction right now that, and all these shows, because of lockdowns, are basically, what do they call them? Virtual or webcam shows, whatever you want to call them. I honestly don't want to see them anymore. Quite honestly, when Stephen Colbert was at home and Seth Meyers was up in an attic having all these stupid things about books and wasps and this talking boat or whatever it was, I don't care to see that. That is not big time network television. That is, I would watch YouTube. I would spend hours watching, these people in their basements or hiding in their room that's dawned with Christmas lights. I would watch the kinds of things. So now when they don't have audience or anything, like, I don't know, I don't care for it. And so I know it sucks that I'm an entertainment reporter and I have these opinions, but that's kind of just where things have gone lately, is that it's not going to surprise me if the Emmys have terrible ratings again. And it'll be interesting to see what happens when it comes time for the Grammys, the SAG, the Oscars, all of those things. I mean, it becomes to the point where people are thinking about themselves and their livelihood. And now I'm getting serious on this one because so many people are out of jobs. And it almost sort of seems trivial when you have these people who have tens of millions of dollars and aren't worried about their next rent payment or mortgage payment or any of those kinds of things. So it's kind of strange now that back in the day there used to be this fascination with the celebrity culture, right? Because you didn't see them all the time and it was kind of a big thing. And now I can, I see all of the stupid food that you're eating at the restaurant or the new expensive shoes that you got that nobody else can afford, kind of a thing. And it really sort of puts it all into perspective. Now, don't get me wrong. I will still be watching all of these shows because that's part of my job. But I'm just saying, like, there's less and less interest. It takes me back to years ago when I first started the radio shows and American Idol was huge. And now again, this is probably about 14 years ago, and before the days of blogging, but I remember I would write out sort of my recap of all the different performances and my thoughts about what happened, and people would be, flooding our website to read that because that was kind of, that was the show. That was what everybody was watching. The same thing with Survivor. There were Survivor parties. Remember that? The very first one, the finale, you'd have everybody, dressed up. There were office pools about who's going to win and all those things. Television has changed now. When you look at the Emmys, and again, when I look at a bunch of the nominees, I haven't heard of about 95% of them. There was one year where the big networks, so we're talking NBC, CBS, Fox, ABC, had like no nominations in the top categories because of things like Netflix, Amazon, and all these different, streaming services. So it's confusing now because there's no possible way that you can be well versed in all of the nominees. Now, even initially, just with the four big networks and and maybe some of the fringe networks, HBO, things like that, you'd at least heard of the shows. I sort of knew what they were about. Now, when I look at the nominees that come out, I'm just like, it feels like I've been under a rock for 4 years, and I keep my ear tuned in to entertainment. Obviously, again, I have to, it's my job, and I don't know half of these things. Like it's very strange. Now, let me talk about, I said about my mom and her thoughts on reality shows. This is what's interesting. I got together with her. She came to do a dog walk one night. My parents live like, I'd say, a 5-minute drive from me, so she will often come and walk the dogs with me. And she she asked me if I've been watching America's Got Talent. Let me be honest, I have not. Yes, we had the Toronto girl on, Roberta, I think is the name. We had her on at the start of the season because, again, I'm Canadian. Everybody thought, oh, it's great, you can talk to her. So we had her on. She was fat. I enjoyed her. Loved talking with her mom too. But once the season is going on now, I don't care to watch, I'll be honest with you. But anyway, so my mom goes on this rant about how it's the people who don't have talent, it's the people who have the sad story. And she was getting so worked up that I said, I'd like you to come inside and record a segment with me for the radio shows. And she wouldn't do it. She played shy. She's like, no. But she was so passionate about it. And, she would say they've got the sad story about, whether they were in jail or so-and-so died of cancer or this and that or what have you. And I was laughing because that's something that I realized a long time ago, right? I mean, and it's no different than Big Brother. There's sort of the cookie cutter cast. You're going to have the busty blonde. You're going to have the jock. You're going to have the redneck. You're going to have the flamboyant gay guy. You're going to have the whatever. I mean, that's just the way things go. Same thing with Bachelor, right? You're going to end up having you're going to have the nanny, you're going to have the nurse, you're going to have the pharmaceutical sales rep, you're going to have the blogger, you're going to have you're going to have 5 girls named Lindsay all spelled different ways. You're going to have, that's just my... That's just my jaded opinion and commentary about reality shows, but that's kind of what it is. Now, earlier in the week, Dancing with the Stars premiered, and Tyra Banks was just destroyed by critics because, as you'll recall, Erin Andrews and Tom Bergeron were fired, right, for being white, and so then they bring in Tyra, who again has hosted a couple different shows, and I'm not talking like Next Top Model. I'm talking, I think, speaking of AGT, she was a host of AGT before. I think she had her failed daytime talk show. So again, this is somebody, let's just judge it by the ratings and the cancellations, is somebody that people don't want to see hosting, at least, a talent competition anyway. Next Top Model, I guess, in a sense, is a talent competition as well. And, it's just kind of like, it seems like the networks are just sort of scrambling for anything, just throwing it at the wall to see what will stick. And there was a lot of backlash. I was reading the tweets, and somebody said, I vote Tyra off on the next episode. And what is it, what'll it take to bring back Tom? And it's such a divided country. It's a divided world, even just when it comes to entertainment and what people want to consume nowadays. Now, speaking of what we consume and where our time is spent, I'm going to go right into it right now. All right, we're going to take a break, and I will talk about the celebrity boycott on Instagram earlier this week when we come back.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. I was a little bit forceful there on that intro. I apologize. I'll tone it down just a little bit. But yes, we are live on this September 18th. How's it going today? Earlier in the week, the celebrity world, and that's your Kim Kardashian, your Katy Perry, your Jamie Foxx. I'm trying to think of who else did it. Well, a bunch of people jumped on the bandwagon to do that whole one-day no Instagram boycott. And what did it get them? I'm not quite sure. I don't know. I really don't know. Now, here's the thing. You can do this to take a stand and say, it's about, hatred and equality. And I mean, people were doing it for any number of reasons, right? There were a ton of things. But it was, I don't understand, why you would, if I'm boycotting something, I'm boycotting forever. So doing that, saying that I'm going to boycott, so somebody who's got tens of millions of followers, like a celebrity, I'm going to boycott for one day, but money talks, right? And so when you're paid to do posts, and when you're paid, for this, and that's basically your audience, and you've got an ego, so you need the attention, and you want to see how many likes you're going to get, I don't understand. Then shut down your page for good and create your own platform. Really, honestly, this is the thing. If you are that big, now I'm not saying that a Kardashian should create their own social media platform, but honestly, now here's the deal. When we started doing our radio shows, and I wasn't on Facebook, I was very late coming onto Facebook. I remember hearing people talk about it around the office, and I had no interest in it. But I always said, I want to be in full control over our content. So when we started to do celebrity interviews and covering red carpets and things like that, sure, we'll post them on a Facebook page or Twitter or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I want our own content somewhere, right? We're gonna have our own website and we're gonna put content on that. And because if that platform goes, look at MySpace. Look at what happens with MySpace, right? Suddenly that's unpopular and you've just spent 5 or 6 years posting all of your photos on there, essentially using it as a photo album, right? Or a photo collection of sorts. And then you're done. Or same thing with Facebook. What if all of a sudden your page gets shut down and you're blocked and you're done and whatever? There go all your memories. And so that's where I've never really had an interest in social media. And I think even my Instagram profile says something to that effect, that I have I'm in broadcasting, but I've got no interest in posting on social media. I'm going to be honest, right? And so it's kind of weird then that there's this, like, what is the one-day boycott going to do? Like, I don't understand. And same thing, and again, this, feel free to send me letters and hate mail, but when everybody did that black square on their Instagram, I think it was for Black Lives Matter, I don't recall, so don't quote me on that. But I didn't I don't get it. I don't really comprehend what I understand the message, but I'm not quite sure what action you're expecting as a result of that. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Is that it's great that you're not going to be on Instagram all day on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever it was, but I just know that you're probably still scrolling through. You're probably still using the app that day, whether you're posting or not. You're still probably using it. So there you go. You're still supporting that company, and then 2, come Wednesday morning, Thursday, the next day. Well, I imagine that the first thing you're going to do in the morning is go to your phone and, again, check it. Now, here's the deal. This is where I am not a hypocrite. I don't sleep with my phones. Our phones are not upstairs in our bedroom. There's the only technology, and I've said this on the show before, is the television. And, because I've got to fall asleep to a bit of noise, whether it's music or TV or like a show or music, one of the, streaming stations, whatever. That's what we fall asleep to. But phones? No, not allowed in the room upstairs. Nope. So for me, when we wake up in the morning, the dogs go a little bit nuts. We might just toss and turn in bed a little bit. Might even put on TV, watch a bit. The phone is not the first thing that I go to in the morning. And so it's interesting that, the celebs that do a boycott, I can only imagine that their hand must just be shaking to then post and go back. But like I said, I hard-pressed to find any celebrity that might not have posted that day, but sure as hell still checked in on their Instagram app. I'm almost willing to bet. Send me an email, tell me your thoughts. live@jbonair.com. live@jbonair.com. There we go. So we go from talking about the celebrity lifestyle to my lifestyle, and I'll tell you about what I do on a rainy day in the fall when we come back.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. I'm really hitting that B, hey? Jeremy Bradley back on the Scribble. I don't know. Just one of those days. Because I'm excited. Like I said earlier, we are live today on September 18th, and there's so many, and again, to give you the ins and outs of how this show and our radio shows work, is that some of the segments are pre-taped. Like last week when we had Budsies and Petsies, we had Alex on from that Shark Tank company. We taped that in August, and so there's just a bunch of it's kind of weird how things get pieced together. So I can tell you that we are live because earlier in the week Kanye West took a piss on his Grammy in the toilet, and what else, right? I mean that's how tuned in we are, folks. Yes, absolutely. I know, like I said, I knew that Tyra Banks was, booed at by the Twitter crowd. Yeah, so anyway, I was talking about how I live a very, very low-key lifestyle. Quite honestly, this is the thing. People often will laugh and make fun, but we have 2 dogs, we have 2 rabbits, we generally don't go out, and it's not just because of the coronavirus. And my husband is a Brazilian fitness model, so he's a gorgeous, gorgeous hunk of a man. Maybe that's why we don't go out, right? I keep him to myself. But no, honestly, we just we kind of hang out at home. We watch TV, we watch movies. We go downstairs to the basement where we have surround sound system and club lighting. I'm not kidding you, we do. And we'll go down there with the dogs and have some drinks and dance, and the dogs wrestle, and maybe there's some nudity every once in a while. Not the dogs, but the humans. And we just make a night of that, right? Because we both love dancing, we both love music. Who really goes to clubs? Again, not just because of Corona, but who really goes to clubs, dance clubs anymore? This way, we pick the music. We don't have expensive, watered-down drinks. We make what we want, right? We don't have to worry about getting home safely. I guess, in a sense, we do have to go up 2 flights of stairs to get to the bedroom at night. But here's the deal. We could even lay some blankets or whatever on the basement floor and crash there if we have too much to drink. Not a problem. And then again, we'll go to the park with the dogs. Last weekend, thankfully, it was the weather was nice. We did some backyard painting. We did paw paintings where we have like I guess it's finger paints. Yeah, kids' finger paints. We do our hands. We'll do some dog paws on the paper. It just, because again, it's just sort of like silly, fun stuff. We honestly do lead a very, very low-key life. Contrary to what my job is, which is, again, back when red carpets were happening and, TV finales and things like that, that's my job, is right, hanging out with celebrities and going to Hollywood. Right now I'm safely in Canada, as I've talked about for many weeks here on the show. But when we had a rainy day, it was a cold, rainy fall day 3 or 4 days ago. This is the thing, and I've had this discussion with people. Do you lay around and watch movies? Do you just do nothing because you're like, you know what, the weather is kind of so I'm just gonna hang out at home. For some reason, and I don't know why, we don't have a very cluttered house. But there was one day I was like, you know what, I'm gonna tackle this closet in the spare bedroom. Now again, you'd think that a closet in the spare bedroom means that we don't use it for anything, really. And so to have a closet in there, again, you would expect, largely would be empty. Not so. And I think what it ended up being was out of sight, out of mind. If you leave things in the spare bedroom on the floor, in the corner, or wherever, it's noticeable, right? This way you can put stuff in the closet in the spare bedroom, and it still appears that the room is empty. Anyway, there's so much stuff in there. Now, I've been in my house for 12 years. Okay, like I said, I'm not a big shopper and I don't have like artwork and just all these knickknacks and things for the house. I've never been like that. Like I said, I wouldn't have a spare bedroom if that were the case, right? I would have made something of it. I already have an office in one room. Again, we've got the entire rec room downstairs is sort of like a dance club in a sense. And so I go into this closet, and there are things that I guess I brought over from my parents' house when I moved out. Things I don't even remember ever seeing. Like, we're not even just talking about like, oh, there's some of my schoolwork from elementary. Oh, I'm looking at this going, why do I have this? Where I've never even seen this before. And it's kind of interesting because it makes you sort of rack your brain and go, okay, well, it's amongst this and this. So I know the memories from this and this. Let me try to connect those dots now and figure out if this is related to this and this, or that is related to this and this. Do you see where I'm going with that? And then, believe it or not, there were a couple times after racking my brain that I would be like, that's right, that's where that came from, or like that. It's really strange. So it's kind of funny though to go to walk down memory lane, and then there was actually some more touching kinds of things that like. One of my really, really, really good friends died of cancer, probably about, I'd have to look now. See, now I'm on this, now I can't think of it. I whatever, she died, let's say 10 years ago. Bottom line is that I was asked to speak at the funeral, okay? And her daughter, I had worked with the woman for many years, and then I was introduced to her family, and then I was invited to her daughter's wedding, and yeah, I kind of became an honorary member of their family, both Ukrainian families, so I went and, spent Ukrainian Christmas with them before, and it was just nice. And so the daughter asked me if I wanted to speak at the funeral. But wouldn't you know it, I still have the eulogy, the speech, basically, like on the printed paper. And I found that. And it's so crazy because, and again, I'm sitting on the floor in the spare bedroom just sort of going through like a box or, bags of stuff. And I have this in a box. And I'm sitting on the floor like a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, and I'm starting to read the eulogy. And it's crazy because I don't even really remember giving it. I didn't really remember what was in it. And so it was kind of real because I wrote something like that. I again, being the writer and the broadcast from the family, when there's a funeral, whether it's a relative or something, generally I'm the one who speaks at it. I just it sort of just goes without saying. I know that at some point my phone will ring and I'll be asked to do it. And I'm not complaining. I enjoy it. It's fine. But when I'm tasked or asked to do something like that, I generally almost do it right away because it's still fresh in your mind, right? It's still close to you. It's still emotional. And I don't write, I don't give a sad, tearful, whatever. I kind of almost turn it into, not a roast, but only if they're cremated, get it? But no, I keep it lighthearted, and that's, I think, why people ask me to do it. And so it was just sort of nice because I'm going through it. I'm seeing the good memories, the happy memories. Then I would have a dramatic moment. But it was just nice. And again, I mentioned earlier with the whole, the floods and the fires and all this, the hurricanes and the fires and all these things. It really does make you start to appreciate your relationships with people. And so it was great to kind of have a moment. I did shed a tear, and I'm not being playful. I honestly did. I was very moved because it took me back to the friendship that I had with her. And there were just some conversations that I had with her that I've never had with anybody else. She was a very good friend. And, and then she had cancer, like I said, but her husband died. He was in poor health even when she was alive. I think he died, a year or two later. And, so it was really tragic. And so there was a part of me then that after I read that, I almost wanted to look up the daughter on, Facebook or social media or something just to sort of be in touch because, it's been so long. And, and again, I was invited to the daughter's wedding. Like I said, do they have kids now? Are they still together? Like, it's kind of weird. So when it comes to, the shutdowns, the lockdowns, whatever, and this is where I will sort of applaud or credit social media with, people keeping in touch. And I think what social media is essentially for, or was for back in the day, was for things like that, where I could look you up if I went to high school with you or whatever the case might be. And, so it was just kind of nice, and that was how I spent a rainy day. Now, don't get me wrong. At the start of the segment, or at the start of the story, I mentioned that there's people who just want to lounge around. It's cloudy and gloomy and gray outside, so I'm just going to plunk myself down on the couch and watch TV. That's absolutely what I would normally do, but I don't know. There was just something that said, let's just tackle that closet, or let's just and so we did that. Now, one thing that we also did in the summer, very quickly, because I've got to wrap this up. There's a cold room, I guess you'd call it, in my laundry room, and I still had a shit ton of boxes from, again, when I moved in. Now, the boxes of being like my plate set, the glasses, the coffee maker that I bought and never used because I don't drink coffee. So all of the boxes of the, just the little things, right? Whether it was my big salad bowl or the clock that's on the kitchen wall, I still had all of these boxes. And then when I had bigger boxes. So now we're talking about from a television and from a treadmill. Treadmill had a huge box. I think I tend to buy these things, I guess, in the winter. And so it's not really easy to put out the boxes in the winter in Canada with all the snow and everything. We don't really clear our snow very well. And then we have a guy that comes and does it anyway. But anyway, so this summer, I'm not kidding. I have to find the picture and maybe I'll post it somewhere. Our rec room, which is normally empty, full of boxes. I am not kidding you. This was we even called my parents over because my dad has different scissors and cutters and things and whatever to sort of there was cardboard and then the bubble wrap and then plastic and then those little I guess they're called peanuts, little styrofoam kind of things. The entire rec room. And even my parents were like, how did you have all of this in that little cold room and the laundry room? Because it now basically spans your entire basement. Once you've started to unpile it and move it all out. It was ridiculous. Now, again, I'm not saying that I'm one of those people who's going to be on hoarders. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying I just didn't throw it out. That's what it was. It was sort of put away. It's not that I'm collecting it. It was just easier. You buy something, go and throw the box, downstairs in the basement. So we have a clutter-free house now, ladies and gentlemen. One more quick break, and then we're going to wrap things up on the Scribble.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Feel free to give me a shout anytime. It's always awesome hearing from you. Live at jbonair.com is the email address. Live at jbonair.com. As you just heard Larson say, we're also on the Twitter at The Scribble Show. So hopefully you'll follow along and check us out on there. I will talk to you same time, same place next week. Thanks for listening. I will talk to you then. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.